Howdy, Evan Gao, indie developer of Story Origin here. I recently had a conversation with author Joris van Leeuwen about self-publishing and building your own audience. In this conversation, he had a couple of really interesting stories to share, including how he built his audience to 3,000 subscribers in his first 3 months, how he boosted his open rates from around 12% to 30% using a welcome sequence, and how he multiplied the effectiveness of group promos by organizing his own instead of just joining them. He's got a lot of great advice for authors. I've gone ahead and created some highlights from our conversation, and let's go ahead and jump into them.
A small background of me. So I'm actually a traditional published author here in the Netherlands. I've written like 15 suspense novels, like Stephen King type novels. But I was always so used to just writing a book and send it out to my publisher and they did the rest, that when I started to self-publish the translations of those books, I suddenly needed to do everything myself, from the cover design and formatting, but also the marketing side of things. And I didn't have any list because here in the Netherlands, it's not really, you're not used to using email lists, especially not for authors. We're a little bit behind in like the marketing types of things and self-publishing in general. So I started literally from zero and I have no clue how email marketing worked, etc. So I started out, of course, with setting up things like a MailChimp account, and I heard about a reader magnet. So eventually I got that part down with having a reader magnet in a book and a link and etc. You can have the most polished reader magnet and a nice landing page that looks beautiful. If you're not sending traffic to it, it just doesn't work. So I was really frustrated by the fact that, okay, nice, I just have 10 people on my list. How can I bring more people to the list? And eventually I stumbled upon Story Origin, and yeah, that really moved the needle, because just by working with other authors, joining the group promotions, creating the own group promotions, which I would like to go into a little bit more in depth in a second, because I think that's actually one of the best features of Story Origin, to actually create your own promo, landing pages, etc. But those things really helped out, and I think within the first 3 months, I went from maybe 50 people on my list to almost 3,000, 2 or 3,000. The first few months, it really skyrocketed. There are so many different things that you can do in terms of marketing. Of course, you have social media marketing or like Facebook and TikTok. But I think email marketing is still the strongest and best way to market your book. And the sole reason for that is you can of course focus on building your audience on Facebook or on TikTok or whatever social media platform you choose. If Facebook or TikTok or whatever platform decides to shut down your account, you're left with nothing. And with email marketing, your list is always your list. Unless somebody unsubscribes, you're reaching your target audience directly. Consider that Facebook only shows like just a small portion of whatever you share, even if they subscribe to you and join your groups, etc. Yeah, with email marketing, you don't have that issue. If you're planning to write multiple books, then email marketing is definitely the way to go, because you're building an audience, and then when your second book or third book, whenever that's published or about to hit publish, then you can just send out that email and you have a big audience eager to buy your book because they're actually fans. I'm running an author service company, so I talk to authors on a daily basis, and a lot of them are so focused on, yeah, but I want to have like 20,000 followers on Facebook or on TikTok, and they're so focused on that. But again, a lot of those followers are not really there for you. So I prefer to actually have, 1,000 people on my email list. And that may sound like a very small size, but I prefer to have that. But those 1,000 people are actually true fans that actually buy my books every single time. So I think quality over quantity is definitely important. Building the launch team for my next book. I just send out an email from, hey guys, my next book is coming out. Who of you like to be on my list for the next book, and who like to get an early review copy? But also, I'm a people person, right? I like to talk to people, and I really care about conversations and stuff like that. So you're just building a group of family members, even especially your core fans. And when you send an email out, just the fact that you're getting responses back from them from all over the globe, getting that feedback back from them and getting those information and starting that conversation like that as well. That's for me personally as well very, very valuable. Other than that, I mean, review teams, of course, sales, but also just answers to questions. I mean, what I've done in the past as well is that I wrote about 50% of the book, and I wasn't really sure if I was on the right track. So I just posted a few chapters and ask people, hey guys, can you read this? And what do you think? Should I continue with this, or should I change anything? Or what are your thoughts on what I have currently? Sending an email out to your fans, to your email list, can also definitely help. That first started out with just basically on Facebook. I was very active on Facebook, so I just tried to promote the Reader Magnet there and share that link there to the landing page. But of course, you're just not reaching enough people. So that maybe got my first 50 people on my list. But that was basically it, and was really stuck after that. And I was stuck in that place for, I would say, at least 2 months. Now I did some cross promotions with other authors via social media as well, so that helped a bit. But it wasn't actually till I find Story Origin until again it really moved the needle. And what worked for me the best were actually 2 features. The first one, of course, is a swap feature, and then I found the group promotion section, and that really moved the needle. So I first just started with joining as many group promotions as I could, as I was allowed. And so then at least my book was on that page, and everybody was basically sending traffic to that same page. But the trick that I would want to give the advice on everybody that's using Story Origin, what really moved the needle was actually creating those promos myself. Because on Story Origin you can actually just set up that landing page yourself, and then you have to, it's not that hard, it takes you maybe 5 minutes more. Then it's just joining it, you just need to create a banner, setting a few things up. It's really not that difficult. But the beauty of that system is that you own that page. So basically you decide who you allow on that page, but more importantly, you decide to whom you're giving the spots. So you can actually decide which books actually appear on the top of the page, the spots that are highlighted. And I normally use 2, 3, or sometimes 4 books. So my books were on the top. So let's say, for argument's sake, I normally run it for like 30 days. And let's say eventually we have 50 people, or 50, 60, 70 authors, or 50, 60, 70 books on that page. My book, or my books, were on top. So that really moved the needle for me. You can just use Canva, or it doesn't really matter. It doesn't actually have to. Of course, the more professional it looks, the better. Don't get me wrong, but the main focus are in the book anyway. So if you can just whip something up and just have the name of the group promo there, it does the job. I mean, people are taking a look at the books anyway. So yeah, don't worry too much about that if you're not sure how to create these things. It doesn't have to be polished. It really doesn't. If you can, great. If not, don't worry about it. At least that's my experience. The mistake I see a lot of authors make is trying to push their books out as much as they can. So when somebody joins your list, immediately sends them an email out for, hey, glad that you're here. Here's my book, buy it now. That just doesn't work. You're not building a relationship like that. So I think it starts there. Really be interested in that person, build a relationship, and then you can slowly start pitching your book. What actually worked really well for me, and again, I have everything automated, of course, but when I want to pitch one of my books, I use storytelling. I mean, I'm an author, so, and if everybody's watching this who are authors, you guys know how to write a story and tell a story. So use storytelling. And let me give an example. So one of my books is a suspense novel, and it begins with a boy and a girl, a brother and sister, who go shopping. And that little girl goes into the shopping mall, finds a dress, go into the clothing booth, change for a new dress, but she doesn't come out. And from that moment on, nobody even remembers her. There are no photos of her. It's like she's completely erased from existence. The only person who knows that she existed is that boy, the little boy that was her brother. So that's basically what the story is about, how it got started. But the reason behind that story, the reason why I started with that story was actually because when I was the same age. I actually lost my sister in the grocery store. That memory stick with me and eventually it became like a fiction novel. But if you use that story, so if I tell my audience about that time that I lost my sister, and you do it in a storytelling way, and you spread that out over, I know, 1, 2, or 3 emails, and then afterwards you can tell them, I actually written a book about this, then that really works because then they are engaged with the story. They want to know more. I actually get emails from my subscribers if they read the first email, and of course I end with a cliffhanger. Can I read part 2? What happened? I mean, did you actually found her, and how long was she gone? So that really works as well. So just use storytelling. So I personally use short stories because I'm a fiction author. So I've just written two exclusive short stories. One of them is actually, in my opinion, a little bit too short. It's little over 2,000 words. So it's a very, very short story. The cover though is amazing. So a lot of people are clicking on that. So it is working. But what I sometimes am getting is when I just used that solely just that one, I got from, yeah, I loved it, but it was just too short. So what I'm doing now is use two short stories because the first one is just working so well, but I want to add more value because I think adding value is very important because people are giving you their email address, so you need to get some value back. At the end of those short stories, I have links and images about my books, like blurbs and the covers, of course, and the links where they can guide it, and like Amazon links and stuff like that. And that works very well because you're reaching bigger audience by cross-promoting it, of course. I always advise authors to, especially if they're writing a fantasy series, for instance, to write a prequel or at least a short story that is related to the same universe or the same world. I think that works best. For me personally, that doesn't work because I just write standalones. So the short stories are in that same genre, but other than that, they're not related. But again, if you can make it related, if you have a series, do that because that works even better. I started with, I think, one welcome email, and then I immediately dove in with the traditional mistake of pushing my books out. So like the second email was ready. Hey, this is one of my books. It's about this. Go buy it. So that was like the first 4 or 5 months. And then I slowly started test things and learn about things. And then, yeah, eventually that grew. So when I started out, I just had one email per book. Now I have like 3 or 4 emails per book. But I'm not only talking about the books, I'm also talking about my journey as an author. I think better. The first one is basically just telling them why they're there, who I am, and also to give a free short story. Of course, with Story Urchin, they will get it automatically, but if people sign up for my landing page or read a magnet outside of Story Urchin, I have that link for them in their first email as well. And then 2 days later, I send them an email that says, did you like the free short stories I gave you? You don't want to put all the information about you and about your stories in like one email because it's going to be very lengthy. So I basically split that information up a little bit. And on third email, I actually give away one of my books to give them even more. So that's the first 3 emails. And then every week they get an email from me. The main one I have here is, have you ever lost your brother or sister? So that's about the one that we just talked about, where I go into that memory about the fact that I lost my sister in the grocery store. As weird as it may sound, I'm not using my emails to push my books out. I try to stay away from that as much as I can and just tell them stories, but they are all related to my book. So eventually I can say to them, hey, I've sent you these emails, and now I've written a book about this topic. Feel free to check it out. That's basically all I do from call to action. I started an author. I think in the beginning, of course, I had less people on my list, but I would have an open rate of, I would say like 12% or something like that. Now it's around the 29 or 30%. The first email, welcome email I had was pretty lengthy. I basically put everything in one email. And then what you see is that I just had one call to action at the bottom. But if the email is so long, they just don't get there. So if you have a lot of things you want to tell them, just split it up in multiple emails. Use storytelling, so it's fun to read. So I spread that eventually out in like 3 or 4 emails. They were shorter, so people were actually clicking on the links more because they actually were getting to the links. The more you can have your email look like and regular email that you send out to your friends or family or business associates or whatever, the better it is as well for not ending in spam folders, for your click-through rate, for open rate, for everything basically. What really worked for me, just don't think of the thousands of people you're reaching, just think of, okay, I'm gonna write one email and this email is for my best friend, for instance. I just want to update him or her about what I've been up to this and about my new book, etc.